Okay, I'd like now to introduce Kathleen Eaton Bravo. Kathleen is the CEO and founder of the Obria Medical Clinics and is one of the nation's leading pro-life healthcare advocates. She initially founded the first Obria clinics she founded were down in Southern California, and now Obria is becoming a national chain of pregnancy resource clinics that provide a full range of women's healthcare resources, prenatal healthcare resources, STD testing, cancer screenings, and she's going to tell you all about the wonderful work that they are doing at Obria. So without further ado, and hopefully we can get the old Right to Life logo back up on the screen, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kathleen Eaton Bravo.
Thank you. So I'm just going to bring Patty up here because she picked me up at the airport, and I got in the car and we realized we had sort of similar personalities. And I think she picked me up at 10:45 and I told her everything. So I'm going to go back to her house and go to sleep. And she's going to get up here and tell you everything that I told her all afternoon. Anyway, so she kept saying, oh my gosh, save it till tonight, save it till tonight. And then we kept talking. Anyway, just to end, to also share, I just have to tell you, I am an NFP person. I did not contracept, and I'm old, so it's been around a long time. And I'm so thankful that I did. I have watched as my friends went through many breast cancer, and I have to say, I go to the doctor and they said, what are you taking? What, nothing? Nothing? So what do you, nothing, cancer? And so I don't know, but I actually have always felt that it's because I never contracepted. I never took the pill. And here I am, and I've had no serious anything, knock on wood. And I'm so thankful because as I tracked and I charted and did all that, it does bring this great personal relationship with your husband because he's part of the knowledge and decision making on, we really can't afford another child and so you actually as a couple make those decisions to know, okay, we're going to have a baby, or not that, you don't make mistakes once in a while, but it's not a mistake because I have 3 beautiful boys that are now men. Anyway, I want to thank you for what you're doing because it really changed my life. And I absolutely loved it. And I've always been a very big proponent of NFP, and I did the Billings method back then. In fact, I just went through, we had our own conference, and we had Anna Hallpine speak on FEM, which, as Dr. shared, is another similar to what she's doing. So it's really great to see how it's grown. And, today there's actually apps on the phones, which, millennials, everything is on their phone, and it's great to see. The sad thing is Planned Parenthood, when contraception dropped 30%, and it has, the CDC, that's the CDC's report, when they dropped 30%, if you looked at Planned Parenthood's annual report last year, sure enough, guess what the percentage was on their income coming in from contraception? It had dropped 30%. So they started looking at our side, like I say, I zig and zag when they zig and zag, and they do watch us, and Planned Parenthood launched their first fertility app. It was rather shocking when I saw it, but not really shocking because they don't want that 30% of income to come over to our side. Now, I have not been on their app, but they had, I want to say, over 1 million downloads with 200,000 women using it. So in some ways, I'm kind of sad. I mean, I'm thankful that the women are finding it, but I'm not really sure how they're using it because, they gave the pill at a very low dosage so they can head these girls right down the track into an abortion where they make their money. So if anybody's telling you that Planned Parenthood does not make the bulk of their income from abortion, they don't understand because that's a lie. There are 2 things they do is abortion and contraception. And and that's who I'm here to talk about. I'm really not going to talk a lot about Planned Parenthood. I share that I always took Planned Parenthood as a different approach. Then we can get angry and we could fight and we could do whatever we do. I actually want to talk about what we need to be for. I think there's so much energy going into against and fighting Planned Parenthood that we've sort of moved that energy over to what can we do? I mean, we know they're there and we know what they do. So for me, I am a post-abortive woman, and I went to a Planned Parenthood And back in the days when I had an abortion, which was now 38 years ago, and I walked out the back door, it was horrific. I had no medication. It was horrible. And my girlfriend said, but Kathleen, if you'd been put out and there was no pain, would you be doing what you're doing today? Probably not. I probably would have gotten back in my car. But even with that, I do have to say that I think God worked a miracle that day. Now, I had not been inside a church in 8 years. I'd walked away from my faith. I was really on the fast track to had everything that I wanted by that time. And I didn't need any of that until I walked out that back door of the abortion clinic. And I had a flat tire on my car because I had driven myself, and why they didn't give me any medication. And but it, again, that was God's plan, and I had to sit on the curb. And that's when I started crying. And crying turned into wailing while I was waiting for that, AAA to come fix my tire. And I reached out to God. And in that conversation, I said to God, I know you don't leave me, but I turn my back on you, and I'm not even sure where this is going to go from here. I'm not making any promises. But I can say that if you bring one woman, that I can take her hand, because nobody took mine, and say, you don't have to do this, that you have options. I can forgive myself. And a very, very wonderful Norbertine priest of mine, and I'm going to do this, but this is what he said to me. By God, Kathleen, when you say, God, use me, by God, God will use you. Father Leo, pray for him. We've all gotten old, and he's got a little bit older, and I'm going to miss him dearly, but he's really struggling with his health. But anyway, Father Leo and I became dear friends, and through the process, and it's a long process, I'm not going to tell you, but I ended up in a church a year later, and sitting in the back, and I couldn't receive the Eucharist, and I started wailing and crying, and I had to leave, and I was like, wanted to crawl over the pews, and at the end of this, by the way, by this time I'm in Oklahoma, which is a sad story in itself, and I'm in Oklahoma City, and just really, I felt like I'd really had that dark night of the soul, where I thought I'm either going to get up and take my life, or I'm going to get up and do something, and so found this little church. And at the end of Mass, as we have it, would you please sit down? We have someone that's going to talk. And I'm going, oh, my gosh, because by that point, I just needed to get out of that church. I just wanted to run. I just needed to get out of that church. And so I sat down because I couldn't climb over the people. And Barbara Chisco walked up, and she says, hi, my name is Barbara, and we run Birth Choice, and it's a crisis pregnancy center, and we reach out to women and offer them alternatives to abortion. So I had to tell that story because God took me through that abortion, out the back door, sitting on that curb with a flat tire, ended up in Oklahoma, not in a good scenario, ended up in a little church, and who does he put in front of me? So he has to take me all the way to Oklahoma City from California to teach me about the pro-life movement. That was 37 years ago. And not that I had my own company in the private sector. I worked for AT&T, and on the side, I ran 3 pregnancy centers from 1981 and in California. And those 3 pregnancy centers in 2004 went fully licensed medical clinics. In California, we have to have a license even if you just want to run a pregnancy test in California. So we ran pregnancy tests, ultrasound. And then my husband had passed away. And my last son left for college, and I just said, that's it. And I closed my company and went to the board, and I said, I need to make a living. I sold everything. And my husband said, yeah, my mom started running, and we think she was living in her car. Well, I wasn't living in her car. I was living with a girlfriend. But what I did then is I basically just committed myself to this movement. And I always say, I said, God, bring me one, and I know it's well over 300,000. So as Father Leo says, when God wants to use you, he will use you. But I also started my own company, and I realized when I started a company, it was an engineering firm, consulting engineering firm for biomedical device companies, and there was a lot of competition out there. And so I thought, okay, I'm starting this in my home. I'm going to support my family. And I looked at the competition. I looked at everything they did. I studied them. I watched them. And I said, okay, if I'm going to get people out of that engineering firm and over into mine, what do I have to do? Where's my niche? And I found my niche. Well, I compare it today in California to In-N-Out and McDonald's. I mean, there was McDonald's and Carl's Jr. and all the other ones, but yet In-N-Out came, and we all love. If anybody says what's the best hamburger, we're going to say In-N-Out. But they came into a very competitive model, and they looked at what the other people were doing, and what did they do? They did it better. Fresh meat, fresh vegetables, blah, blah, blah. Everybody fell in love with it. And all they do is hamburgers and French fries and milkshakes and Cokes. And they kept to that model. So here we are. So I'm running 3 pregnancy centers, and I'm looking at Planned Parenthood. And bottom line, we'd sit there all day, and we would pray, and we would talk, and we would pray, and the phone would ring, and it was the wrong number. And usually we saw, and then they'd say, well, if you just pray all day long, God will answer those prayers, and just pray for all those women that are out there searching for an abortion, and you're going to save them, but you just won't know. And I'm going, there's something wrong with a model that we sit and we wait for the phone to ring. And by the way, we have to wait till she gets in a crisis pregnancy before we react. So in other words, we've created this model, this faith-based, lovely pro-life model, and we're saying, okay, we're going to let you go down the slippery slope. We're going to let you get pregnant, and then we're going to hope you find us. And if you find us, praise God, and then we pray and hope that we save the baby. And so we started counting saving babies, how many babies saved. And I really don't like that. It just has a problem with, we sit and wait, we miss probably 98% of them, we catch one, we save the baby, and we count. And we've sort of, in that model, I'm not dissing the pro-life movement and the pregnancy resource centers. I think they're awesome. We were compassionate, we had a heart, we loved. But God brought me into this ministry as a businesswoman that realized we can do better than this. And so we actually looked at, and I've stuck with it all along, compassionate healthcare, empowering women, and changing lives. You see, when I sat on the curb, I said to God, bring me one woman so that I could empower her to make the right decision. So I hit the ground running. My husband had passed away in January of 2004, and by the end of that year, the 3 pregnancy centers were fully licensed medical clinics moving toward a comprehensive, compassionate, holistic women's healthcare model. So what do we do today? We do pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, of course. We do well woman care. We do pap smears. We do cancer screening. We do UTI testing. We can do blood draws if she's having other problems. Our staff is FEM trained. I went to NAPRO and went through the Creighton method, being an NFP person myself, and so I made sure we went ahead and HIV/AIDS testing, and we reached out to men. For some reason, the pro-life movement was just women and pregnant women in crisis, but it takes 2, and we totally ignored the other person. And so when I started speaking in high schools and I talked to these men, and I'd say to the girls, I'd say, well, what is your dream? My dream is, go to college, get married, have a baby. And I say, so, the boys, I was in one class and it was a bunch of football players. And then he goes, well, I'm having a good time. I'm playing football. And then I want to go to college. And then I want to find, a woman to marry her, one that I can take home to mom. And all of a sudden the girls looked at him because, this wasn't that long ago. And all of a sudden I realized that we have to touch both, the man and the woman, the young girl and the young boy. And so we actually have taken women out, not all of them. Some of our OBRIAs are just comprehensive women's healthcare clinics. If you see mine, it's comprehensive healthcare clinics. We reach out to the millennials, and we offer services. We do STD testing and treatment and HIV/AIDS and treatment on men. Men come in with their girlfriends when they're coming in for their PAPs, or they're not feeling good, or they had unprotected sex, or they think they have an STD and they're hurting and they're sore and something's wrong. And we deal with these issues, but what have we done? What we have done is we went upstream. God, we became a proactive model instead of a reactive model. In other words, if I can get them off that slippery slope of hooking up and feeling that the consequences, or they won't have consequences, but buying into the secular world and society today. If I can get to them with education like FEM, I'm telling you what is so empowering. What is so empowering is when you have a young woman that comes in and she's maybe with her boyfriend or not, and she's having sex and she's on that slippery slope and she's depressed and she's unhappy and she's a mess and she most likely has HPV or herpes or an STD, and now she doesn't know what to do. By the way, There's another study done that I just read that over 35% of high school women are now saying they are not having sex in high school. That is huge. Why? Because we're educating them. And why? Because, in my age, you got the pill, and then you get this white piece of paper in 3-point font that you couldn't read. But today, thank God, women want knowledge. And they go on here and they read exactly what you shared. What is in that pill? And all of a sudden they're going, oh my gosh, no wonder I don't feel good. No wonder I'm sick. We have an opportunity now to change, regardless of what Planned Parenthood says and what you're hearing. We have an opportunity to change the world. We have an opportunity in women's health care to be the players in the field now, not Planned Parenthood, because of people like what you're teaching from FEM and NAPRO and Creighton and what we're doing in our clinics. So you've got a Planned Parenthood. I don't need to be across the street from Planned Parenthood. I just have to have a comprehensive women's health care clinic that I can get them out of their clinic and into ours, because I promise you, if they come into an Obria clinic, they never go back. And I'm telling you, if they don't go back and we empower them and educate them to change their lives, and we introduce them to fertility education, it's empowering. When they know the beauty of their body and how they're created and how it works, it empowers them. You know where it's actually flourishing? In the Black communities. So I was just with a group of Black educators, and they said if the Black communities are embracing it, the Black young women are embracing it. And I thought, gosh, why? And she said, well, basically, they always felt that they didn't get the right education. Their school systems were poor, but all of a sudden they realized, because they have a smartphone, that they can look at their sexuality and children in a different way than I'm going to have a baby, as some of them say, so that I can get money from the government. You know what? Just like all other women out there, they're empowering themselves to change their lives. And this is where we need to be. So if you look at our healthcare clinics and realize if we create a competitive model and get them out of Planned Parenthood, we're not only going to change their lives, we're also going to save babies, but we won't be counting them, because we're going to get them off that slippery slope before they end up in a crisis pregnancy. Look, I handed out a lot of baby diapers and baby clothes, and I really didn't go into this to hand out diapers. I went in this to approach it from a business model, a competitive model, that we're in and out, and they're McDonald's, and they're never going back to McDonald's. So I started doing this, and we expanded our clinics in Southern California, and life kept changing. And then what happened? Well, what happened is I met an 84-year-old man who said, Kathleen, I believe in taking your model national. But he says, I'm 84 years old and I want to return on my investment. And so it's going to take you a long time to convince the pro-life movement to move over from a pregnancy center model that's been entrenched here for 45 years, which they're beautiful and they're lovely. And I would say probably 90% of the pro-life groups out there are a pregnancy center with an ultrasound. Now, I'm a young woman, and I want to go somewhere, and I really don't like Planned Parenthood. So maybe she's not pregnant, but she's not feeling good, and she's had unprotected sex. She's missed her period. She's not sure. She just doesn't feel good. When she goes to a pregnancy center and looks them up, and their names are all the Women's Life Center, the Women's Care. I mean, they have educated them from Planned Parenthood in the public school system exactly the words. If it's got life in it, if it's got options in it, if it's got choices in it. We took choice and thought it would be smart because they had choice. They dumped choice. We took it. Not a good choice. If it has birth in it, I had two, birth, choice. And so the problem is we also branded ourselves as we are pro-life. A lot of them actually say the Life Center. If a girl is looking for an abortion, she's not going to go to a Life Center. She's going to go to Planned Parenthood. So we sort of shook up the model. And I said, if we're going to do this, we have to rebrand in a name. Millennials want one word, one syllable, and they can remember it. Easy. Everything they buy, think about it. Think about everything, even Uber, everything you're doing today, it's one word, very easy. So people said, what does Obria mean? And I said, you have a little donor, a woman that's, donated us for 30 years. And she says, I love birth choice. I said, I know you did, honey. We were marketing you. But you know, the problem is you were giving your $10 or $100, but we weren't seeing any patients. Because the pro-life movement markets the donors because we need money, but we've never moved over to understand that we got to meet them where they're at. So we did focus groups on college universities. We hired the students. We went out there and we did birth choice. Guess what? 87% said, I know exactly what it is. I'm not going there. In fact, the Charlotte Lozier Institute did a survey. The sad thing is the survey numbers were pretty distressing that they didn't publish it, but I got a hard copy. They went into university campuses. And it was really interesting to see that that 97% had never heard of Heartbeat, the option line. They knew about pregnancy centers, but they wouldn't go there because they already knew what they did. Today's world, there's so much information. So you wrap that all up and realize if we're going to really make a change, if we're going to create a competitive model to serve those women. So we went out, we hired a branding company. It said, bring me 10 words, one word. The word on the very top was Obria. So I had to tell that little lady that said, what does it mean? Because she loved birth choice. And I said, it doesn't mean anything. She thought I was kidding. No, really. I said, really? Now, someone says in Latin, it means don't hold me to it. Since we were talking, it means works. So I guess we can play on good works and works. But bottom line is, I needed something that I could own and trademark. We trademark it nationally and internationally. We own it. And guess what we're doing now? We are defining it. Nobody else is defining it. We are defining it. And so now Obria is in 8 states. We did actually go national. That man that said, I won't fund you if you go national, but I will fund you if you build telemedicine. So I'm now moving to where we are today. We thought we were doing pretty good. I kind of felt like I could step back and breathe. I wasn't going to go national, by the way. I said, no. I said it for 3 years, and then God threw me up against the wall. And he threw me up against a wall about the time that I discovered what telemedicine is. So I'm going to take you into the world today. You're going to see in your folder there's an article that it came out in 2016 in November. And when I read this article, it says, exclusive, abortion by prescription now rivals surgery for U.S. women. Chemical abortions, the abortion pill. I'm not just talking about Ellie and Plan B that you take up to 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. I'm talking about RU46. And I'm saying that in Europe, RU46 has been out there many, many years. And right now, 98% of first trimester abortions in Europe are done by the abortion pill. 98%. Now, you all know the population in Europe, and they're not replacing their population, and therefore, actually, most of the European nations are more Muslim than they are the actual people that, you know, that's their heritage. Well, where are we in this country? Well, right here, 50%, this was in 2016, 50% of the first trimester abortions in this country are done by the abortion pill. Now, do you know what that means? That means she takes the first set of pills, and in 72 hours, that pill kills the baby. And after 72 hours, she takes a series of pills, and then those pills force her to abort the baby or have a miscarriage and abort the baby. Now, she's in her bedroom most of the time. She goes in the bathroom. She's sitting on the floor most of the time. She aborts the baby, and then what does she do? Then she picks the baby up, and she flushes it down the toilet. So all that stuff I told you about how beautiful Obria is doesn't really mean anything anymore. Because as we were going from a pregnancy test to an ultrasound with a comprehensive women's health care clinic, the abortion pill became huge in our country. Currently, right now, Planned Parenthood launched started dispensing the abortion pill through telemedicine. Telemedicine is an online virtual medical clinic. So this is it today. And if you leave nothing else, I need you to understand something. Today, the abortion is right here. This is the abortionist. This is the abortion provider. This is the pill provider. The girl goes home. She accesses it here from apps on her smartphone. She takes the pill at home. She aborts in her bedroom where mom and dad are at work. This is the abortion clinic of today. So when you look at why God put it on my heart to say pregnancy resource centers with a pregnancy test and an ultrasound in a brick and mortar is great, and even on a mobile clinic. But over here is where they are. Telemedicine is an app that is a virtual medical clinic, 24/7. Planned Parenthood is called Planned Parenthood Direct. They man it 24/7 with a nurse practitioner on there. The girl calls in at any time she fills out her patient intake form, pushes send, it goes into them, they contact her, and within 24 hours, that girl is taking that pill. She's not even going into a Planned Parenthood. She's certainly not going to come into a pregnancy center with an ultrasound. She doesn't need an ultrasound. Some states, they require an ultrasound. They figured that out too. So Chuck Donovan from the Charlotte Lozier Institute called me and said, you've got some real problems. And I said, what is it? And he goes, we've discovered in our research that there are 86 illegal sites dispensing RU46 from India and Thailand with no verification of pregnancy. A girl doesn't know she's on an illegal site. They're selling them to also drug dealers, and they are now becoming one of the top drugs being sold on street corners, just like opioids. Now, in our community in Garden Grove, which is pretty much an Asian community, it has become epidemic levels. Now, I'm telling you this because we have to understand what we're facing today. And we have to understand that the millennials, our young girls, junior high, high school, and into college, they know they have 10 weeks to take that pill. The ones coming from Europe, they'll dispense it up to 14 weeks. So where are we? Well, when I met that 84-year-old man and he told me about telemedicine, I didn't know what it was and I didn't care. All I knew, I was not starting anything else. I was not doing it. Let somebody else do it. In fact, I was so angry. Chuck Donovan was with me and we got in the car and I was driving. He said, Kathleen, I got to be in LA and we're in San Diego. I said, I know, I'm taking you home. He goes, you're heading to Tijuana. I know. I was so mad. Well, I'm Irish. So I got home. I said, I don't know what telemedicine is. Now, Chuck Donovan is Charlotte Lozier Institute. That's all he does is research. He researches. He's like Guttmacher, but on the pro-life side. And Chuck goes, well, I think you better go find out. So I did. Now, all this time, I had been praying, knowing that the abortion pill is coming. And I knew what that meant. And I would pray like, God, how are we going to reach them if they're aborting in their bedrooms? And I'd been praying, and I have a spiritual director of this woman I'd meet, and I would tell her, and I said, I just have this fear. I have this fear, and I can't get over it. So I have breakfast with her, and I said, yeah, I went down there, and, he wants me to do telemedicine and this online virtual medical clinic. You got to create an app and anything about it. I'm not doing it. And she says, oh, my God, I didn't say I'm not doing it. And she goes, oh, my God, you must be so excited. I mean, this is like, and I said, why? And she goes, oh, my God, you didn't connect the dots. She goes, that's your answer. Telemedicine. God took you down there to meet with Mr. Castor because he was going to answer what you've been praying about. Well, I can tell you it took over $1 million and a year later, and we're down right now, and the technology changes all the time. But our telemedicine app is, remember that's Planned Parenthood Direct? We are Obria Direct. We're down right now because we're doing GPS so we can drop it into any zip code anywhere in the country. 87% of millennials said they will not call a clinic. If they cannot schedule their appointment online, they're not going. So Planned Parenthood's telemedicine, of course, is connected. You don't know it is. It's integrated into their website. So when they pick up their phone and they search for Planned Parenthood, and right then they fill out their application, and guess what comes up? Boom. Here's the days. Pick your appointment. Tell us what you want. They get an electronic, we got your appointment, we'll see you. And then on the morning of their appointment, they send them a notice. That is electronic patient. You probably all do it for your own doctors. But in the pro-life movement, I mean, now you got to go and you got to look at the pregnancy centers over here with an ultrasound. And we're sitting here waiting. And all of a sudden, everything was way over here. And here we've created something, but now we're not going to get them because we can't touch them because of technology that we don't have. And now we do. So our app will be online scheduling. So same thing. It's being integrated into the website. She doesn't even know your website. The other thing is this. How many websites do you think Planned Parenthood has for their 600 affiliates around the country? How many? One. All 600 affiliates are on one website. What do you think that does to that website? Yeah. Now, I was in Houston, and I started searching. Do you know how many pregnancy centers are within the greater Houston area? 22. How many websites were there? 22. You know where I'm going? So you've got this monstrous Planned Parenthood, and it is damn good. It is. And then you got these little pregnancy centers that don't have any money. They put no money in Google advertising. The first thing I ask when I go into a pregnancy or a clinic or pregnancy center, how much money do you spend on Google AdWords? What? How much money do you spend on your patient marketing program a month? What? I remember I was sitting with Bishop Soto up in Sacramento, and he brought in the life centers, and he went around the table and he asked them, how much money do you put into your patient marketing every month? And it was zero across the board. And these are great centers. Zero. How are they reaching them? How are they reaching them? Where do they go to find it? Where are they searching? And who's sending them there? Google AdWords. If you're not marketing on Google and you're not paying for Google AdWords and you're not optimizing your website and you're not geofencing and you're not doing all the fancy words out there to get them in to end up on your site, we're not going to win. So, of course, then we had to move beyond that and say, okay, we're hiring, and now we've hired experts. Actually, John met them. We have a team of national patient marketing people with 10 landing pages on oneobria.org patient website that every affiliate that comes on board gets their landing pages. So when a girl searches on her Google and she comes up to obria.org and it's picked up by GPS and sends her directly to the landing pages of the clinic in her community. And we are ready to rock and roll. So when our telemedicine app comes back up, we not only will have they can schedule their appointment. It's GPS. We are doing massive. We put all of our funding and financing into one patient website, obria.org, all that SEO, SEM. We do a lot of it. Each individual clinic can add more to it to make it robust. And the next step is telemedicine, because that's where she finds the abortion clinic and the abortion pill. And now she finds Obria Direct. And so now we are optimizing it. We are connecting it with our website. It is going to be seamless. It's exciting. It's being beta tested in San Jose. I just talked to him this morning. It looks like we have another 2 weeks. So for every single Obria clinic that opens up, they're a brick and mortar. If they have a mobile clinic, I don't highly recommend them, and we can talk about it in another conversation, but they have telemedicine because this is where they need to be. So I wanted to share it with you because the exciting thing about Obria, and most importantly too, it's one brand. It's one brand. And it's a proactive brand that goes upstream. It goes onto colleges and universities. We market, we advertise it, we bring them in, and now guess what? We finally are competing nose to nose with Planned Parenthood. Now, I'm going to end with this. I was in Washington, D.C., and I think what she said is just it. So I was, the Susan B. Anthony list, you probably all know, Marjorie Dannenfelser founded it. She's on my national advisory board, as is David Delight and Lila Rose and Kristen Hawkins of Student Life for America and Jim Daly of Focus on the Family and Curtis Martin of Fellowship of Catholic University Students, Our Focus, and on and on and on. We have a great Archbishop Gomez and the bishop in Orange County, and so on and so forth. We have a great national advisory board as well as our board, and now we're forming a board of our national directors. 10 of the top directors are now sort of taking over from me as far as taking on more of the responsibility of growing this plan, because not one person can do this. Our goal is 200 Obria medical clinics strategically located by 2020. And if we do that, we'll decrease abortion with a very low percentage turnover, and our percentage is very high, but at a 16% rate, we can save 225,000 babies. Now, I don't know about you all, but we're not only going to get those women out of Planned Parenthood, but we're going to take care of them, and we're going to take care of them here. Wherever they are, we will be. And Planned Parenthood now has got to run for the money. In fact, that San Jose group that's already testing it, and John saw it, that if they searched, just went on for an abortion within a 10-mile radius of her clinics or a 7-mile radius of all their clinics, they have 4 clinics in the San Jose area, they came up 1, 2, and oftentimes 3. And Planned Parenthood was below them. That is what we're doing. That's what our national marketing team is doing. So I'm going to end with this. When I was with Marjorie, I was up on stage, and a couple of people were getting awards, and they were famous, you know, Senator Joni Ernst and Rice Priebus. I'd probably say his name wrong, right? So anyway, at the time. Anyway, that guy. And then there's this woman, like, who the hell is she? You know, and so Marjorie says, it was the Courage and Leadership Award, and she says, I have Kathleen here because of this. She says, we can have a pro-life president, a pro-life House, a pro-life Senate, we can have a pro-life Supreme Court, and we can overturn Roe. But if we don't have the most difficult thing to do, and that is comprehensive healthcare clinics in the communities, then we're going to drive women back into Planned Parenthood. You see, we can do all that, but we can't do it. Any of it matters if we do not have a place for her to go. Because even though we find her here, you have 15 seconds to find her here. If not, she's gone someplace else. And then you drive her into your brick and mortar. We don't need as many brick and mortars, but if we're not here, and that's what I'm hoping you do here. You see, we've built a comprehensive healthcare model. We have telemedicine. We've covered the cost, and now we're pushing it out nationally. I believe with all my heart that there might be 600 Planned Parenthoods out there, but 200 Obria medical clinics in the right locations where God puts them. Because let me tell you, we're not marketing. God is bringing them. I didn't meet John. Somehow you found us. I'm not sure. But he called. In other words, I believe with all my heart. No, I know by 2020, we are going to win this battle. And that's how Marjorie ended. She says, with boots on the ground medical clinics, which are hard. It's hard to do this. It's hard to raise money. It's hard to do this. But if we do it, I believe this and this alone will change the culture back to a culture of life. And I agree. And that's Obria, so thank you.
I'll thank you so much, Kathleen. That was beautiful. I have nothing to add. It's been a great joy in the last few months. We at Right to Life of Central California have been talking with Obria and exploring the possibilities of doing something in the greater Fresno area. Certainly Right to Life has been very appreciative of the great work of other pregnancy resource clinics in communities, both in Fresno and throughout the valley, particularly here in Fresno Pregnancy Care Center, which has done wonderful work, and many of the sort of upstream things that you've been talking about, Kathleen, of reaching out to young women before they get to the crisis pregnancy moment. But certainly we're extremely excited about the telemedicine aspect. For me, in talking with Kathleen, has been something that's been just so profound, and even sharing it with my staff, who are all younger than I am, it's just so clear that this is the future.